Today we're going to take a look at this highly versatile sewing machine from Janome, the Janome Combi. Now the reason I say it's highly versatile is not only does it have a selection of stitches, good utility stitches here, but it's also got the added feature of the ability to swing the machine around, and on this end here we have a 2-thread overlocker, so it's a 2-in-1 machine. So really good design. They are very solid machines, and this model here weighs in at 14 kg. That's about 30 pounds, so certainly not a lightweight. So this is one of the first versions of the Janome Combi to come out. There was a DX version. It was an updated facelift model, and I think it had a few more features and whatnot. I've got one of those as well, which I'll do a video on at some stage. Yeah, a very versatile little machine here. When I say little, not exactly little, but yeah, very versatile. And so what you see here is you've got this lever here that allows you to bring the machine down for use there, just for general sewing, and then you push the lever across and it lifts the machine up onto a little pedestal here underneath here and allows you just to swing it around like so. Yeah, let's have a close look at the sewing machine side of things. Just a general overview today. Plug it in, there's on off switch here on the side, and so if you're going to be using the sewing machine mode, you have this switch down onto this selection here. And if you switch up to overlocking here, you can see that the light comes on over here, and then you can swing the machine around and use the overlocker. We'll start by using the sewing machine. See the bulbs come on over here. We'll just quickly thread the machine up. I'll give you a quick demo. It's fairly easy to thread, nothing too difficult about that. And I've already got a bobbin installed there. It's a front loading style with a more traditional style bobbin case there, and just front load in here. So just a quick rundown on the controls here. This is the stitch length here, and your reversing button in the middle here, and you've got your stitch selector. So we've got straight, and that's needle to the left, straight sewing, and then various widths of zigzag there right up to the widest, and then you've got a utility stitch, almost like a applique type stitch, I guess you could use that for. And we've got our 4-step buttonhole, so step 1, step 2, step 3 and step 4, and then right back here to a tricot, a 3-step zigzag here. And then we've got in the blue here we've got the stretch stitches, so that's kind of like a blanket stitch there. And then we've got a straight stretch stitch, which does 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 forward, 1 back. So that is the stitch selector there. I'll start on the widest zigzag there. We've got thread tension here, top thread tension. Also, if we bring the stitch length lever right down to the bottom here, you can see there's a little symbol here that's denoting the drop feed. So you bring that right round, and that there drops the feed dogs there. Also on the top here we've got the traditional sort of older style Janome type presser foot pressure here. So you push the outer ring and that releases the foot pressure, and as you push it down it increases the foot pressure until you release that again. So you can set that wherever you like. It's quite a handy design. We've also got the ability to open the faceplate there for access for cleaning and lubricating. Bulb in behind there. So we're on zigzag. We've got about stitch length 2 there. And as you can hear, that's quite a nice smooth machine. It's really impressively quiet, this machine. So that's the standard zigzag there, nothing too fancy. And if we hop over to the sort of applique type stitch there, drop the stitch length down to about 1 there. And you get this type of stitch. You'll notice that the thread looks a little bit dark. This is white thread, but it almost has a grey sort of look about it. That's just it's been serviced recently, so there's a little bit of oil, you know, contaminating that thread there. Yeah, I guess that would be quite good as applique. Might need to shorten the stitch length there slightly for that. The buttonholes are fairly straightforward. Just unclip the standard presser foot there just by hitting the little lever at the back here, drops that foot off. And this is just a buttonhole foot that I have. I don't have the actual accessories for this machine, so the buttonhole foot may look different to this. I always like to put the thread down underneath the buttonhole foot like that. We've got the bobbin thread coming out as well, and then put the material in there. So we're starting on stitch 1 here, so that's going to be the first bar down the left hand side. Then I will switch this to number 2, that'll be the bottom bar here, the wide bar, and then number 3 is the right hand bar heading back up the other side, and then again to number 4, which will just be the top bar again. So I'll be working my way through those. You'll notice that they're a yellow colour, and if we have a look at the stitch length here, you can see the yellow region is down quite low here, so that's indicating this is where you should have your stitch length in here somewhere. I think about there is around about where it should be. That's a trial and error type thing. You just want to give it a try on a piece of scrap material before you go committing to you know, sewing the buttonhole itself. So we're on step 1, so we'll go down the left side there. Just bring the needle out when I'm changing to step 2 there. The bar at the bottom, step 3. Top there, and back to step 4. And there we have a nice little buttonhole, albeit a little bit dirty. That thread there is contaminated there. That's the back end, the back side there. Yeah, it does quite a nice little buttonhole actually. That's the buttonhole in. If we put the standard press foot back on here, and we'll switch to so this little symbol here is basically saying that's the maximum width if you're using a twin needle. Yeah, so that yeah, if you went any higher than that, you're at risk of the twin needles hitting the side of the plate hole and breaking the needles. So you know, you wouldn't want to go much higher than that. So we can do like a narrow zigzag here. Some narrow zigzag there. Yeah, you can see the thread's starting to clean up now. And just switching to tricot there. I've put the stitch length up to about 1.5 for this one. A nice tricot stitch there. And now we'll change over to the blanket stitch. I've put the stitch length on maximum. This is a stretch stitch, so you'll see the machine will feed 2 steps forward and 1 back, and also it's doing a zigzag as well. the sort of, yeah, I call it a blanket stitch, stretch stitch. And then we've got the straight stretch. That creates a very strong and flexible stitch for stretch materials. That's the quick rundown on the sewing machine side, and now we'll switch across to the overlocker. So bring this lever around like that. You can see the bulbs come on over here. We'll swing the machine around. Now I've put contrasting threads on here so we can see what's going on with the 2-thread overlocking. It is just 2-thread, and so the overlocking seam is not designed as a construction seam, so it's really only used for tidying up edges, you know, like so. It's not a strong seam. If you see, I've gone down this just 4 layers here, and if you pulled that apart, you would see, you know, you'd get this sort of grinning effect. In fact, you could almost use that as likes of a mock cover stitch, or flat, like a flat lock almost. So if you do use it on a construction seam, and what I mean by a construction seam is maybe, you know, a seam that takes a little bit of force, like this, maybe the side of a t-shirt, you know, the side seam of a t-shirt or jeans or something like that. So to give that seam strength, you really need to sew down it with a standard sewing machine, you know, straight stitch down there to give on the inside of this here to give it strength. We've got black on the needle thread here, and we've got white coming down to the looper here. We'll get a close look at this here. So if we have a look at the action here of the looper and the needle, so we've got the white thread, the looper's coming through and picking up the black thread off the needle, and then bringing the black thread up and over, and the needle is coming down the back of the looper and hooking the looper thread here, and then the process just repeats. And that's the simplicity of a 2-thread overlocker. These machines are extremely easy to thread. You're really just coming up through these loops here, through the tensioner, down through a couple of loops here, and straight in through the needle. And the looper is also extremely easy to thread. You come up through these loops, around the tensioner, down a couple of eyelets there, and then it's just a matter of threading the looper thread here, the white, straight through the looper eye there. So yeah, really easy to thread. And on the back of the cover is a little threading diagram, so it's quite handy. If we just close that back up there. The overlocker is extremely quiet as well. I think it's probably one of the quietest overlockers. I mean, there's not as much going on, obviously, just being a 2-thread, but still pretty quiet. So just remembering that we're looking at the top here, the black thread is the needle and the white thread is the looper. So the needle thread actually comes right through underneath and loops around to the edge of the fabric, and the white basically just covers across the top there. I'll get you a look in from this angle here. I'll swing the machine around. Take a look at this from this angle here. And you can see the cutting blade here is trimming the edge of the fabric here. I'll swing this plate out. It's not recommended to use an overlocker without this plate in place, but I'm going to hold the scraps back here just so that you can get a good view of the action here. So the looper's picking up the needle thread, bringing it across, bringing the looper thread across for the needle to go down the back like that, catching the looper thread, and the needle thread pops off the looper just there. I'll show you how to strengthen the seam here. There's several reasons to use an overlocker, but one is to tidy up an edge like this here, and it stops the material from fraying, and also, you know, because it cuts as it sews, it cleans everything up quite nicely there. If it's just a 2 or a 3 thread overlocker, as I said before, you can't use it as a construction type seam for any sort of strength. It just pulls apart. But just for tidying up, no problem at all. If you want to use an overlocker, I do refer to these as overlockers. I know they're called Sergers in other countries, but yeah, just out of habit really, I call them overlockers. But if you wanted an overlocker that would, you know, not only clean up the edge of the seam and stop it from fraying, but also to give you the strength of a construction seam here, you would use a 4 thread or a 5 thread overlocker. So let's have a wee look at how we'll strengthen this seam here. I'll switch the machine back to sewing machine mode, and I'll select straight stitch here, and effectively I want to sew just to the left of the black stitching there of the overlocking stitch. Not too straight, but anyway, you can see there that I've tried to go as close as I can to the original overlocking needle seam there. And if we open this up, and we can see that now we don't have any grinning going on, so the two pieces of fabric are firmly held together there, and that's what you want to do if you're using a 3 thread or a 2 thread like this on a seam that needs to have strength. So that in a nutshell, you know, gives you a pretty good overview of the Janome Combi. So I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you very much for watching. Also like to thank my patrons on Patreon for helping to support the channel.